Hey, Brandon here with Truly Alone Bushcraft. Today we're doing something a little different. We're going to be talking about something very fun that you can buy for under $160. We're taking a close look at a very interesting self-defense shotgun. Let's get into it. This is the Black Aces Pro Series X chambered and 12 gauge OG pump shotgun. So let's take her over to the bench and get started. This thing combines that classic pump action feel with a corrosion resistant nickel finish. It's a good looking gun, and it's got a bunch of other practical features that make for a good self-defense, home defense, and throw it back your truck, put it on gun duty. In this here video, I'm going to show you all the specs, controls, and modular features, and what it's like to run at the range. Most importantly, who it makes sense for. Let's go ahead and hit the key specs so you know exactly what you're looking at. Gauge and chamber. It's a 12 gauge pump shotgun, chambered in 2 3/4 inch and 3-inch shells. So you can run anything from lighter target loads up to a full power defensive buckshot and slugs, as long as they match the chamber length. The barrel. We got an 18.5 inch barrel, which keeps it maneuverable indoors while still giving you full-size pump layout. Capacity. Standard tube gives you 5+1 or 4+1 depending on the shell length and any plug that might be installed. Think typical defense capacity in this class. Nickel marine finish on the metal parts for corrosion resistant, and black synthetic stock with 4N for durability and low maintenance. Comes with a front and rear rifle sights and an optic on the rail on the receiver, which is a nice touch on a budget-friendly pump. The control layout is very similar if you ever handled a mainstream pump like an 870 style gun. For the safety, we got a cross bolt safety at the rear of the trigger guard where you can hit it with your trigger finger. Pump releases in the typical spot near the trigger guard, so you can unlock the action to load or unload without pulling the trigger. It loads through a bottom loading port into the magazine tube and ejects out the right side, just like you'd expect on a traditional pump. As for feel, the length of pull on the full stock is pretty standard, and the recoil pad does a reasonable job for softening heavier loads. The 4N has enough texture to keep your hand locked in when you're cycling the action quickly, and overall, it shoulders like a conventional tactical shotgun. Nickel marine finish and its purposes. Well, the nickel marine part of the name is more than just looks. The nickel finish on the barrel and receiver is there to improve corrosion resistance, which is handy if the shotgun is going live in a damp environment, a boat, truck, or a closet where it doesn't get babied. On top of that, the bright finish gives a good visual contrast against the black furniture, so it has that distinctive two-tone look that stands out compared to a basic blued pump. You can get an array of parts for this shotgun. One of the big selling points of the Pro Series X line is modularity across the package. Depending on the specific configuration you buy, you can get a full shoulder stock plus a shorter grip option in the box, much like a pistol grip, letting you switch between a traditional shotgun layout and a more compact shockwave style grip for tighter spaces. It gives you some flexibility whether you want a full stock gun for the range or a shorter overall profile for storage and maneuvering. It typically ships with a choke set as well, so you're not locked into a single fixed choke. Having multiple chokes mean you can tweak your pattern a bit if you want to stretch it out for slugs or tighten up for certain loads, even though this is mainly a defensive oriented setup. Mechanically, this is an import pump that takes a lot of design cues from popular 870 style shotguns, so the internal layout and loading port will look very familiar if you've handled those before. The locking system uses a bolt that engages a barrel extension up top. Again, very much in line with a modern pump design. In use, the action will feel a little different than a high-end pump. Some owners note that the 4N wants to start moving as soon as the trigger breaks, so you may notice the slide unlocking immediately if you're pulling back hard on the 4N while you shoot. That can actually help speed up your pump stroke, but it's something to be aware of so you don't short stroke it. What is the recoil and shooting experience like? At the range with full power 12 gauge loads, you're reminded that this is still a fairly light defensive pump with an 18.5 inch barrel. Recoil is absolutely there. especially if you're running stout buckshot or slug. After a couple of dozen full power shells, most shooters are going to feel it in the shoulder. But that's typical for this class of shotgun. Running lighter targets or reduced recoil defensive loads makes it much more comfortable and easier to keep the gun on the target for quick follow-up shots. The rifle sights and ability to mount an optic also help when you're stretching out with slugs or dialing in more precise shots. So who is this for? Home defense is a good start. The 18.5-inch barrel, rifle sights, and optic rail make it a solid option if you're looking for a pump shotgun to dedicate to home protection. I'd probably say the second option is going to be throw it in the back of a truck or a boat. That nickel finish and synthetic furniture makes a lot of sense if your gun is going to live in a less ideal conditions, where moisture and humidity are part of the deal. What's another reason to buy the Pro Series X from Black Aces? I'm going to say budget friendly. I mean, for $140, I know I didn't spend over $150 plus my transfer charge. It occupies that budget friendly area so you can get that pump tactical feeling without having to go overboard and paying for these big brand guns. Let's quickly break down the pros and cons as they stand. The pros of the Black Aces Pro X Series 12 gauge is probably going to be the corrosion resistant nickel marine finish on the metal parts. You get an 18.5-inch barrel, rifle sights, and optic rails right from the factory. You're going to get modular furniture options in the packages, including different stock or grip configurations and multiple chokes. You get a price point that's accessible for someone wanting to self-defense shotgun without spending top dollar. Cons list ain't too big of a lift. Action, feel, fit and finish aren't going to match higher end American made pumps. It's an import with some quirks. The recoil is stout with full power loads, especially over long range sessions. The aftermarket support and accessories are not as deep as a more established pump platform. Because it's a pump 12 gauge shotgun, maintenance is pretty straightforward. Keep the bore, chamber, and actions rails as clean as you possibly can and lightly oiled. Wipe down with that nickel finish with a cloth after exposure and to moisture. The synthetic furniture is also low maintenance, so you don't have to worry about much swelling or warping like you might with a wood gun or a gun that lives in humid environments. That's going to be the Black Aces Pro Series X in nickel marine pump 12 gauge. A compact, corrosive resistant defense shotgun with some solid features and a few quirks you should be aware of before you buy. If you want to see this thing run more on the range, let me know what drills or ammo types you'd like covered, a follow-up or another video. Drop your questions down in the comments. Hit the like button if this helped you out any at all. And if you want more practical breakdowns of shotguns and defensive setups, let me know. So, thanks for watching. Stay safe. And we will be back at it. Some more shelter builds out there in the bushcraft. I just wanted to go over this because I paid next to nothing for it and you really can't beat a sub $200 pump shotgun with some tactical attachments straight from the factory. So, thanks so much. See you in the next video.